The jobs data with the consumer confidence at an all-time low seemed very fishy not too long ago, but now we are seeing what is looking like the weakness in the consumer coming to light. All of this and more showing more weakness in the economy, even though the tariffs are lifted. But first, let's get into what Bill Gates is doing, just firing, kicking a bunch of people in the chest, telling them to get the hell out of here. Obviously, that's kidding, a little tongue in cheek, trying to be a little playful with the sounds of layoffs. But at the same time, we're seeing that Microsoft, one of the largest companies, one of the Mag 7, cutting 3% of its workforce now, just days after the trade deal between China and the United States was announced. So, why are they doing this? I thought that everything in the economy was all peaches and daisies, and that once the tariffs are lifted, then we will see a bunch of positive stuff and positive headlines. Not so fast, my friend. The reason why Jerome Powell is resistant to lowering the interest rates, we're going to get into all of that in a minute, but a big part of that is what we're seeing right here. Microsoft laying off about 6,000 people, 3% of their labor force, 3% of, and it had 228,000 as of last June. The maker of Windows and Word is aiming to reduce management layers. So this isn't just, hey, let's cut off, 6,000, custodians or something along those lines. The management layers are pretty big workforce numbers. So that looks like a growing sign of, hey, we're going to try to continue to lower the overhead costs, the CapEx, the overhead expenditures. And they're not the only giant tech firm that is going through all of this. In fact, we're seeing another one, Jeff B. at Amazon, cutting 100 jobs in devices units, ongoing an efficiency drive. It's only a small portion, but it's citing the companies as part of ongoing work to make our teams and programs operate more efficiently and to better align with our product roadmap. Oh my goodness. For some reason, it is not sharing, but Amazon cutting just 100. But either way, you got to read between the lines here. Amazon, the giant tech firm, one of the most efficient companies there is looking at ways to become even more efficient. So what are they going to do with that? Well, they're going to look at the devices and services unit responsible for Kindle, Echo, smart home devices, Alexa, home voice assistant, Zox, robotaxi, and more. The spokesperson did not say which divisions layoffs had added, but the job cuts Wednesday, noting that Amazon had made several rounds of layoffs targeting specific departments, has about 1.56 million in full part-time employees. So it's got a ton. So this 100 is a very minuscule mark, but it's signs of something bigger. It's signs of things underneath the hood, right? We have 127 tech companies now with over almost 60,000 layoffs in the United States. And there's another company that's another tech firm, Oracle, a giant cloud computing company, is also cutting a full branch. It's an Alabama-based branch, so not necessarily one that, would be a huge driver for talent per se, but 65 workers in Montgomery. Obviously, it's not its main one, and that's not to insult the people of Montgomery. It's just it's not its headquarters. Usually they have headquarters and then branches in, say, Miami, LA, San Francisco. But, it's an Austin, Texas-based software company that did not respond for comment. But based on the information, we do not anticipate any local job loss when it's coming to there and when they're talking about the Austin, Texas branch. But as I stated in the beginning, don't waste money. Consumer confidence has fallen, but Americans are still spending ahead of tariff fears. Now, This is the always the interesting and the funny aspect of all of these headlines. It's like, who are we really talking about? If you're going to go shop at Walmart, your local grocery store, Publix, like I'm here in Florida, are we really going to be looking at, oh, you know what? Let's hold off. Maybe Trump's going to do something on the tariffs and then my eggs are going to be cheaper tomorrow than they are today. That's never the case. It's absolutely lunacy that they're even trying to cite this, and that the fact that they're bringing up tariffs in these headlines is crazy. But you know what? That sometimes you just can't coach this kind of stuff. I mean, they just make this up and they continue to double and triple down on this. Many people still spending like it's 1999 and rushing to beat possible tariffs. They're nervous about even possible, but consumer confidence is at an all-time low. No, not an all-time low, excuse me. Consumer confidence is at a low since they've seen in since 2011, excuse me. So 14-year low. So or 13-year low, excuse me. So we're seeing this, and they're citing tariffs in certain articles, but in reality, I think it shows what I've been saying this whole time, is that the job market is not as strong as people are leading off to be. Unemployment might be a little bit low, but the new hires and the new jobs available, they're not hiring. They're leaving these jobs on the market for quite some time, looking for, oh, you know what? We're going to make sure we make the right hire, looking for the correct talent. In reality, I think they're just waiting on the overall economy to see, where this thing is going. Should they get off the ship? I think that's really what they're continuing to look at. So I think, they're taking this with a grain of salt. They're looking at, the overall job situation, and they're saying, hey, you know what? I'm happy with my job right now, but I'd be worried if I'm trying to jump ship, move to another direction. That's where something I think is looking at potentially falling or changing or even shifting gears here, right? So the more that we see these kind of things, the more cracks we see, right? Consumer confidence declined for the fifth consecutive month in April, falling to levels not seen since the onset of COVID. The decline was largely driven by consumers' expectations, their business conditions, employment prospects, and future income. So they believe that their future income is something that they should be, really worried about here. Should we be worried about everything else here underneath the hood, right? Because the consumer also has some bigger issues that I've been lining out in other live streams as well. 2025 credit cards, statistics. We're seeing credit card debt start to shoot up and shoot up rapidly. Now, granted, we went down a little bit in this past in Q2 of 24 or in 25 in Q1 of 25, excuse me. But credit card debt and credit card balances are continuing to rise, and the use of credit, although it took a little dive here in this past quarter, it's still increasing. And the amount of mortgage rates or the amount of money out on mortgages is rapidly increasing as well. So we're continuing to see this where the consumer's just getting in massive and massive amounts of debt, and they're losing their purchasing power time in and time out. Now, what we haven't seen is any shift on the Fed. I've been showing you guys the same chart. I show it to you guys nearly every single live stream for those of you that have shown in. But I show you guys this because I want to track about how close, we're going to see the Fed potentially cut these interest rates here in 33 days. So in just over a month, we see an 8.2% chance of this actually occurring, when in reality, the consumer is showing a lot of weakness. We saw the Dixie yesterday at 100.8. We see it fall down 0.098, so 0.1% to 100.7. So we're seeing the dollar strength wane a little bit, but not necessarily go too far. But the reality of this whole situation is that the layoffs show one thing, that the consumer confidence is justified. Everybody is somewhat fearful of their job and their job prospects here in the near future. So, why should they be? If the economy is all peaches and daisies, as everybody seems to lead on, the reality is the economy isn't all peaches and daisies just yet, even though we're seeing some positive days in the market. We actually are seeing a pretty solid week in the S&P 500, if you don't say so myself. In the past 5 days, it's up 4%. So, for the S&P 500, that's something solid. So the market seems to be humming along, but inflation is not quite under wraps, right? I mean, I think the interesting aspect is what we saw from CPI. I went over that the other day, but as many of you know, I love to show the Govflation website because, we had CPI at 2.3%. And if you get it at 2.3% with the latest basket of goods, we're still sitting at over 10%. I mean, it's blasphemy. They're telling you, hey, don't worry, CPI is perfectly fine. But the other interesting aspect is that it looks like they're trying to move the needle, move the bar, and show exactly where it is. But, the Fed has been trying to move that inflation target, but Jerome Powell said it's been inappropriate. So at least Jay Powell has a head on his shoulders saying, hey, I don't think we should be changing this inflation rate above 2%. But the reality of the situation is that people are looking at it that way. They're looking at the inflation rate. Should they be doing that? Should they be changing it? But Powell has come out and said the quiet parts out loud on a continual basis. Using inflation as a tool, so to speak, steals from the later generations. And doing that would be a huge disservice to them, and they would be behind before they even get started. So the consumer and what we're seeing here, the job market is not quite as strong as people are leading you to believe. And that's evident when you see Mag 7s have to go through layoffs, especially a Mag 7 giant like Microsoft. So if you guys enjoyed this content, smoke the like button like Cheech and Chong, hit the subscribe button with the bell notification so you guys can join me on the next live stream. Tell a friend to tell a friend, and I will see you guys all tomorrow.